Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed? Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Class, we broadcast 2 hours daily, Monday through Friday, right here from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Dr. Shealy is in the Ozark Mountains as well. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, 605-477-3249, 605-477-3249. Brad is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at GCN. I'm Vincent Finelli. Delighted to be with you. Dr. Shealy, thank you so much for taking such good care of me. I really appreciate your medical advice, opinions.
One certainly takes good care of one's dear friends. I try to do that with everybody, but friends do get extra attention if possible.
I really appreciate it. You know, I had a great time at your clinic yesterday, and I spent several hours in the scalar energy room. And Dr. Shealy, can you share with our class today a little bit about, or a lot about, the scalar energy room, what you do in that room, the results that you have seen, witnessed, measured, and so forth?
Well, basically, scalar is the most unusual energy known. It was discovered by Scottish physicists in the mid-1800s. It was further developed by the greatest brain of all time, probably, Nikola Tesla, in the early 1900s. What he demonstrated with it is that actually it is, quote, free energy, end quote. Now, what that means is, according to physicists, every empty space, not only here in our house, on our planet, but in the universe, is filled with something called scalar energy. It is unfocused, so it's just there, waiting to be tapped. If we tap it, according to Bill Tiller, a retired chair of the Department of Physics at Stanford University, in the space the size of a helium molecule, which is the smallest physical thing I can think of, there is enough energy to boil the ocean. So there is truly unlimited energy if we know how to focus scalar itself. Of course, the energy empire, the part of the major evil empire of the entire world, did everything in their power to destroy Tesla and his work. I'm amazed they didn't actually take a contract on him, but they totally put him down. He somehow didn't recover from and get, the credit that he should have gotten as the greatest Nobel Prize of all time. Meanwhile, physicists sort of dawdle with it. About a year and a half ago, I attended the annual Tesla conference, which looks at new energy. And there were 2 papers there on the use of scalar energy for healing. And it's sort of sitting in the back of my mind. Actually, Sergey Sorin and I went down to Kentucky to one of the clinics where they use some of this equipment. We sort of rested all day in the room, couldn't tell much other than that. But in the fall, there was a story about a small city in southern Italy where the average life expectancy is longer than anywhere else on the earth, 95 or more. And they're healthy until then. And actually 10% of them lived past 100, and 10% of those lived to 110. And they were trying to say it's because of the Mediterranean diet. And maybe they eat a lot of rosemary. Now, to me, everybody in Italy practically eats the Mediterranean diet. I mean, that's the staple of the country. And certainly, how much rosemary can you eat that would make that kind of difference? So intuitively, I thought there's something about the topography of that particular area. Maybe the Earth itself somehow focuses scalar energy there. And indeed, interestingly, I have corresponded with the people who did the research where they found in these people the adrenomedullin to be equal to healthy 20-year-olds. Adrenomedullin is probably the single most important hormone in the body for telling whether or not you are getting age problems. Ordinarily, anytime you're stressed, whether it's physical, emotional, or otherwise, adrenomedullin goes up to bring back down the stress response. It is much more effective than cortisol and safer. But cumulatively, through 80 and more years of age, your adrenomedullin level goes up. So I had 28 people volunteer to have their adrenomedullin blood level drawn, and then over the next 4 weeks to spend 36 hours, 9 hours every week for 4 weeks, and then redraw the adrenomedullin. We finished that study in mid-March. It took us 6 weeks to get all the results, because at that time I'd never found a commercial lab to do it. I had to do it at a research lab. At any rate, the results were that adrenomedullin, and in my people now, the average was well above 100. Normal, healthy, and a 20-year-old would be less than 10. But the average came down 52%, which means just 36 hours a month markedly reduced years and years, decades of stress accumulation. So a couple of weeks ago, today, in fact, 2 weeks from today ago, we had Dr. Philip Landis, who is a naturopath and also chief cloud pilot, part of the MNHA, who does live blood analysis. Live blood analysis is you take a drop of blood just from the fingertip, put it on a slide, and look at it, because there are a dozen different things you could see under the microscope that mainly look at excess clotting or inflammatory responses. So we took 3 different drops of blood, and we put one of them under the microscope immediately, and then just 20 minutes, the other one was put in the scalar room, amplified, by the way, by crushed sapphire. We can go into that later. And looked at the blood again, and a 50 to 80% reduction in all of the inflammatory markers in 20 minutes. Now, the people also in that second study did a urine before they started to measure free radicals, and spent 3 hours in the room themselves and redid the free radicals gain, and free radicals came down just in 3 hours, 40 to 50%. I mean, both of those things suggest marked stress reduction in a short period of time. Now, you have to keep at it, because, all of us have accumulated however many decades of stress before this was done. Meanwhile, also, we have done Oh, by the way, as a third slide, we put in the PEMF device, our pulsed electromagnetic field device, and it also reduced free radicals essentially as much as the scalar did. Then, since then, we have also done 3 people where we have looked at the EEG, computerized EEG, for 15 minutes plain while resting, then 15 minutes with the scalar near the head, and then 15 minutes with the PEMF near the head. And again, the results are quite striking. The scalar near the head puts the brain into deep, deep, deep delta, which is the deepest relaxation you can have before you fall asleep. Interestingly, the PEMF device puts it into high beta and gamma. Gamma is peak performance mentally. So it's quite different from its effect on the brain. It has a beautiful effect, but it's not as deep relaxation. It is amplification, if you will. Now, to me, looking at all of this cumulatively, it means that scalar energy, focused the way we can do it electrically, is the most healing force we know on Earth at this point. Now, there's another aspect of this that I can consider critically important. I have about 200 different patients whose EEG has been changed instantly, within seconds, by a spiritual healer from outside the room up to 1,000 miles away. Now, one of the things about scalar is it moves many times the speed of light. I don't know anything else that can move 1,000 miles in seconds and change your EEG. So it looks as if spiritual healers, who are good at least, can change your EEG. Therefore, they must be mentally focusing scalar energy. And putting all this together, what it sounds to me as if is the universe is filled with this phenomenal energy. And I have to say the manifestation of God, in my opinion, whatever the organization of the world universe is, invokes or produces, puts out scalar energy. And with the right kind of mental attitude, you can focus it. But there are machines now that we can use to focus it in a health healing way. So we are producing, and we'll have within 3 weeks, our Sapphire Enhanced adrenoscalar devices. These would be very small, not much bigger than a framed photograph, maybe about 10 by 12. And you can put it in your bedroom. And so you get anywhere from 7 to 8 hours, hopefully that's how much sleep you're going to get, every night. And getting that much every day, I believe, will reverse illness and help health better than anything in the history of the world. Sorry to be so long-winded.
Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, class, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this when we come back. We're talking about scalar energy, and I've got scalar energy right here. Yeah, I was just getting out the ruler to measure the scalar energy device that Dr. Shealy lent me. And it's right here in the studio, and I've been using it for several days here. And Dr. Shealy, I'd like to share with you, if it's okay, some of the results that I've experienced. Would that be okay with you? Do we lose Dr. Shealy? Well, let me tell you anyway. So I have this device, and okay. Dr. Shealy, is it okay with you if I talk about the scalar energy device that you lent me, the prototype?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Go for it.
Well, class, all right. So, class, you know that I've had some health challenges. I don't really want to get into specifics, but I've had some issues with respiration. And so I have I've gone to Dr. Shealy and gotten medical counseling and advice and treatments and so forth. And I have experienced several times his scalar energy. He has a couple rooms that have scalar energy in it. And my experiences have always been the same. When I go into either one of those rooms, I get into a state of relaxation. Literally, almost a state that you might consider just before hypnosis. And one day, recently, I experienced the pulsed electromagnetic field device, the PEMF device that Dr. Shealy and Luke Cassidy have created. And I've experienced that simultaneously with scalar energy. And what happened with both of them operating at the same time in the same room, the PEMF device right on my upper chest, and the scalar energy aimed right at me just a couple feet away. I was in a recliner type chair. Went into, even when both of them were running, even deeper state of relaxation. I would say that it was almost, if not at the same level with both of them, as the mental state I was in during a past life regression with Dr. Shealy. Now, the difference between the past life regression state and the state recently with the PEMF device and the scalar energy device is that I was alone in the room with the scalar energy and PEMF. And I just closed my eyes and I was out. Now, it was not a, boy, I'm really exhausted, tired out. I was just, I had energy, but my mental state was very, very calm. And if I wanted to focus on something, I believe I could. And so Dr. Shealy lent me the scalar energy device, and I put it in the bedroom, and I was out. Absolutely out. And again, it causes this state of deep, deep, deep relaxation. And I mentioned this to Dr. Shealy's nurse as I was starting to experience this. And I said, this is like one step before a past life regression type hypnosis. One step before. And that was early in the experience, lying or reclining in this, we'll call it a lazy boy type chair. But later on, during that same day, maybe a half hour later, I was way more relaxed than even that, and even in a deeper, deeper state. So that's what I've experienced. And right this moment, I have the scalar energy device aimed at me. It's about 3 feet away. Now that's as close as I can put it in the studio. It's behind me, and it's aimed about 3 feet away. And I've looked at it with the tri-field meter. And it does register electrical energy, and it does register some magnetic energy. But as you move away from it, just a few inches away, it decays very, very, very quickly. So at 1 foot away, I don't think it's measurable with that device. So that has been my experience in a nutshell. Do I plan on continuing to use it? Yeah, I'd like to use it for 30 days and give you a full report as to my experiences, if they change or if they stay the same. But I can tell you one thing, it is very, very relaxing. That's Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, medical doctor. And if you'd like to go to his website, you can go to normshealy.com, 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 and you can get the free newsletters, the ones that I get. You can peruse his optimal health recommendations, and you can see what he's up to, and you can find his address for his clinic if you'd like to visit him and Dr. Sergey Sorin and the staff at Dr. Shealy's office in Springfield, Missouri. Dr. Shealy, would you like to share with us how we can get in touch with you?
Well, Norm at Norm Shealy, of course, if they want to do email, if they want to call the clinic, it's 417-351-5221. And, of course, I think they should stay tuned because the weekend of October 5th, 6th, etc., I'm meeting in Connecticut with a firm to, release nationally our information on all of our products, but especially the Sapphire Enhanced Adreno Scalar device that we have created. Because, in my opinion, this is the single most important health-enhancing discovery in the history of mankind, or womankind.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm using it right here, Dr. Shealy, and I can tell you that it really, maybe our class can hear the relaxation in my voice. It absolutely has an effect on me. And what I've done, Dr. Shealy, is I've measured the output of this. And in class, it looks like a picture frame with a blinking LED to tell you that it is operational. And there's a 0 to 3 range on a tri-field meter for magnetic measurements, and it measures the magnetic activity, it measures electric activity, and it measures radio / microwave type frequencies. Now I measured, and they're very low, very in terms of once you get maybe 12 inches away, it's hardly measurable on these scales. But I did plug in a kilowatt, KILL-A-WATT meter, to the power supply to the scalar energy device, because I believed it consumed very, very small amounts of power. And I verified that just now. And so I have it operating, the scalar energy device is operating with a kilowatt meter to determine how much power is this device actually using. Well, the answer is 1 watt. So when you think, and that's how much power it's consuming, and that's not radiated power, that's power consumption to power this device. And that means that if you were to run this for 1,000 hours continuously, nonstop, in our neck of the woods, the power bill for that operation for 1,000 hours continuous of this scalar energy device would be 10 cents. Literally. That's how much it costs to operate this device.
It's not quite.
I can tell you but it's darn close.
Agreed. Well, now the next step, Vince, once we get the permanent devices, the sapphire enhanced adrenomedullin devices, the next step will be to get at least half a dozen to 10 people who are willing to have their telomeres measured and give them a device to use for a year and then remeasure the telomeres, because I believe that with the amount of stress reduction that this particular device does, that we will show, just as with certain blends of our essential oils or the Rejuva-Matrix and electricity of a different nature, we've already proven that you can regrow your telomeres 3.5% a year, and telomeres are so important in health and longevity.
Yes, you have. And my wife was in that study, and her telomeres grew. And she participated in that study with the Bliss oils. Dr. Shealy, I was talking with a few young people about stress. And the first time I heard about stress in my life and paid attention to it was in the 1990s. I was a computer consultant for several school districts in Virginia, and I was talking with one of the teachers, and she says, and she put her hands up like she was under arrest. And we're just talking, very calmly. I was in her classroom, and we're talking about the technology. And I mean, no one pointed a gun to her head, okay? No one was yelling and screaming. The students weren't running around. It was just us in this room, and we're just chatting about technology. Nothing to get excited about at all. And she raised her hands like she was under arrest and looked at me, and she said, "I'm stressing. I'm really stressing." And that was the first time I heard the word stress and the word stressing. And I didn't understand really what she was talking about. And what she was describing is some high level of anxiety, as I look back, that she was experiencing. And that was the first time that I'd heard anyone mention this, because I thought, well, if you're under pressure, and I've heard those terms, I feel like I'm under pressure, but I haven't heard the term stress or stressing until that point. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about my discussion with some young people recently. I'm talking about, teenagers, late teenagers, early 20s, and they are telling me that they are stressed. Now, some of them are going to school, and they're going to school like nights, and they're working, have a part-time job, and they're going to school either part-time or full-time, and they are really stressed. And I said to one of them, a young lady, I said, "So tell me about the other people your peers in school. How do they compare to you regarding stress?" And she told me that she is calm compared to them, and she's really stressed. And I said, "All right, so what do you attribute this to?" She said, "Well, we've got we've got classes and we've got some, exams, and we have some reading material, and, we have to keep up with our studies. Okay, yeah, I did that too. I went to school full-time for my master's at night, and I did my master's degree in 18 months, and I was working full-time, and I was traveling 66 miles each way between school and my full-time job as a financial analyst and later on as a computer systems analyst. So I thought that, well, if I have, and I called it pressure, if I had the pressure of one exam over my head a week, it'd be, what's the difference between that and 4 or 5 exams a week? So let's just do it all at once and bang this master's degree out. Well, but I never really complained to anybody. I never really said, well, I'm really stressed. This is terrible. I just did it. Okay? I did, and it was self-imposed. It wasn't like anyone said to me, Vinny, you're going to get a master's degree, whether you like it or not. It wasn't like that. I decided I wanted to get one. Well, the point I'm trying to make is I don't remember in the 70s when I was doing my undergraduate work, my bachelor's of science, ever saying I'm really stressed and anxious and, I never said that. And neither did anybody else. It's just something that wasn't mentioned. Either maybe it didn't exist or maybe we never talked about it, but for sure we didn't talk about it. However, when I talked to this young lady about her stress and her peers, I asked her what she thought it might be. And she mentioned school, and she mentioned, that, but also working. But then she said something that was even more significant. And she referred to it as the social pressures, the constant contact, the cell phone, the constant texts, the constant need for updates, the constant need to find out what each other is doing and when and why, and looking at those pictures that are sent on the smartphones to each other. And she narrowed it down to that it was the constant contact, the social media that is driving our young people into extreme anxiety. And it's not just her. You talk to any young person, and they'll say, yeah, I feel really stressed. And it's this constant contact. And it's people texting me in the middle of the night. It's my phone vibrating, with when I'm not supposed to be on the phone. And it's that. It's really that. But at the same time, Dr. Shealy, they won't turn that darn thing off. They won't leave home without it. They won't get rid of it. They are addicted.
It is, Vincent, it is an addiction. A true, serious, health-destroying addiction. In the long run, it's going to be as bad as drugs.
There was a gal who, this was months and months and months ago, at your scalar energy room. And everyone, and let me paint this picture, class. So think of a large room in a medical clinic and a whole bunch of reclining type chairs. So everybody is in a reclining type chair. Everybody has his eyes closed, her eyes closed, deep state of relaxation. But one gal who's new to this has her cell phone and she's texting away, and she stopped it immediately. Because we said something. We're talking about scalar energy versus the cell phone. And Dr. Shealy, here's my question. Is it possible that using a cell phone and being addicted to the cell phone can prevent the absorption of some of these low-powered scalar energy waves that would benefit us?
Absolutely.
And what I'm saying, yeah. And
in
so,
fact, that's one of the reasons we ask all the participants not to use cell phones in the scalar room.
Yeah, and some people are just so darn addicted, as you mentioned, that I think withdrawal is instantaneous.
Oh, yeah.
They just can't think about not having that cell phone. So, Dr. Shealy, are you convinced that cell phones are actually damaging maybe our evolution?
To brain.
Changes.
Brain especially, mind especially, to the nervous system and the immune system. But other than that, probably they're not too bad.
Wow.
I know I'm not quite as significant as you are. I have an old-fashioned flip phone, which is turned off 99.999% of the time. I carry it with me when I travel because there isn't, there used to be phones available in airports and all kinds of places. They're not even there anymore. So if I'm traveling, even in my car, and something happens, I want it for an emergency. But that's when I use my old flip phone. It is not available for people to call me. First of all, I don't want to be on call 24 hours a day. I don't even want to be on call 8 hours a day so people can get to me anytime they want. I
because
that, well, it's distracting.
Absolutely. And one of the things that brought this to my mind was I used to get calls from people, and I'd answer the phone, the landline, for example, and they'd be traveling, they'd be in their car, and they'd say, well, they're bored, so they thought they'd call me. It's like, so you're bored, so now you got to take up my time.
You want to irritate me with your nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's got something important to say, I'm all ears. If they have an emergency, I'm all ears. But we can get that solved quickly. We don't need a half-hour conversation about things that aren't important. I've got a lot of things I need.
Drivel.
Yeah,
Facebook.
That's exactly.
Twitter.
Yeah.
All of those things are, in my opinion, the worst drivel ever created.
And here's how I liken that. When I used to have a job at a corporation, I worked for one of the Fortune 100 companies as a financial analyst and a computer systems analyst. And we would have a cafeteria where the guys would sit down at a table, the gals would sit down at a table, guys and gals would sit down at tables. And we didn't talk about people. We didn't say, you see her over there? Here's what's going on in her life. We didn't talk about that. We talked about the business. We talked about what we were doing. We used that as productive time to share concepts, ideas, plans, developments that we were rolling out. In my area, I happen to impact every area of the company because I was in computer systems design at the banks. And I talk about, with members of the departments I was building systems for. I would talk about where we are, what we're doing. I'd get their input, see if they had any changes. It was productive use of time. It wasn't like, hey, you want to see a picture of my dog? You want to see a picture of my dog looking at another dog? You want to see three dogs all looking at each other?
Yeah, drivel.
Drivel, yeah. And so I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested, as you are not, in being on tap 24 hours a day. For anyone who's got some whim to give me a call because they're bored. Dr. Shealy, when we come back and we talk about, and this bothers me, smoking and the unborn child. When mothers smoke, when mothers are addicted to smoking cigarettes, and they're pregnant, some of the damage that can be done to the child. And then chest infections as a child increases the risk of asthma by 4x. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, and if you'd like to, go to his website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. And if you'd like to send him an email, norm@normshealy.com, NORM@normshealy.com. Dr. Shealy, I was reading an article on the internet about this mother who was in her mid-20s, and she smoked through her first pregnancy. And as a result, her daughter was left with breathing problems from birth. And so this young woman who just smoked, and I guess she probably didn't listen to advice of lots of people around her, and the young child had respiratory problems. And the mother feels guilty to what she's done. Yeah.
There is a place for guilt. It's when you damage someone else. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. So, can you talk about what your thoughts are regarding smoking and the newborn? I mean, heck, we've known this for, what, 100 years?
Yeah.
100 years?
The number one cause of premature death, the number one of premature birth early, of low birth weight, and even stillbirth is cigarette smoking. That's at the top of the list. In addition to that, it damages the lungs, the heart, and the brain, so that a huge percentage of babies of smoking mothers are born damaged physically in many, if not every organ in their body. It is probably almost worse than taking narcotics while you're pregnancy, and because it damages more organs than the narcotics do. Narcotics primarily damage the brain. So it is beyond stupid. It is criminal, in my opinion. Absolutely criminal. They ought to be whipped with a cane in public square.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is an article on the dailymail.co.uk, and within this article it says, what are the effects of smoking while pregnant? And it says here, every time a pregnant woman smokes a cigarette, it cuts down the oxygen to her unborn baby and exposes the baby to a cocktail of chemicals, including chemicals that cause cancer. Some of the many damaging effects of cigarette smoke on the fetus include reduced oxygen supply due to carbon monoxide and nicotine, retarded growth and development, increased risk of cleft lip and cleft palate, decreased fetal movement in the womb for at least an hour after smoking one cigarette, impaired development and working of the placenta, changes in the baby's brain and lungs. Now, how can any woman do that to her child?
Well, she's already brain damaged.
Yeah.
She is brain, ethics, morality damaged.
So this woman feels really guilty, and absolutely she should. She caused 100% of it herself. And now I do blame a small amount of this on the tobacco companies, because articles I've read in the past, and a small amount, they have engineered cigarettes to be addictive at greater and greater intensities. So the plan with the tobacco companies, I believe, this is just my opinion, I believe has been in World War II, let's send some cigarettes to those GIs who are in combat, and GIs who are doing all kinds of defense of our country in World War II. Let's get them hooked. So we'll get all these customers when they come back at the end of the war, because the war will end. They'll come back addicted, and they'll be buying our brand of cigarettes. And then the tobacco companies swore to Congress that there's no link to cancer. And then we know that the tobacco companies, through our research and articles we've read over the years, that they have engineered even more and more addictive tobacco plants. So here we have corporations enhancing their customers' dependence on the products that they make.
Well,
addiction to cigarettes.
In my opinion, tobacco should be banned from the earth. And anybody who supports it should be hanged in public square. But other than that, and I mean, really, it is one of the most serious, damaging things to people, everybody in the environment, and babies known. It is truly beyond belief unethical.
And many smokers leave a trail evidence that they were there.
Oh, yeah.
And here's, and the trail is, it can be as simple as cigarette butts. You know, we live on a dirt road, and I don't know why, but many times a year we go and clean up the trash along our dirt road, and we will find all in one spot cigarette butt after cigarette butt after cigarette butt, as if, and this is probably the case, as if someone pulls over the side of the road, rolls down the window, and throws their cigarette ashtray overboard on the side of the road. And I think that some smokers, not all, but some, feel that it is their right to throw cigarette butts out their window as they're speeding along the highways and byways. Some smokers feel that it's their right to just dump their cigarette butts wherever the heck they feel like it, wherever. And I can tell you this, that one cigarette butt, if a person smokes one cigarette outside of a house, and then brings the cigarette butt inside and finds an ashtray, and then puts that cigarette butt in the ashtray, it'll stink up the whole kitchen.
Well, they won't find an ashtray in my house. We gave them up when we got married.
Yeah. There you go. So, for the life of me, I don't understand smoking. I don't understand how anyone could pick up that habit. 100% of people have to know. They have to know that it's a killer. They have to know that it's offensive. They have to know that it causes respiratory problems for those around them, or it could. They have to know that it's a dirty habit, but they don't stop.
Well, it is dirty, filthy, immoral, but other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, the play goes on.
I mean, so how about if I went into somebody's house and said, hey, tell you what, you don't mind if I've got this sheet of paper in my hand, you don't mind if I just light it here in the kitchen sink, do you? It'll smoke up a little bit. I have a few ashes, but we can wash them down the drain. Is that okay? You mind if I just light this on fire in your house? But
no.
Yet, but yet, that is similar in concept to what happens. So, well, we're successfully alienating lots of people here on USA Prepares. I've alienated those who want higher electric rates. They're mad at me. Some veterans are mad at me because I think it's wrong to offer, for corporations to offer discounts just to veterans, just because, or to the military, I should say. I know that there's some annoyed with me for that. What I'm saying is, I don't think people should be given special treatment because of their occupation. Okay? I don't think they should be given special treatment because of their occupation. Not because of military, so to speak, but them being singled out. And I'm going to talk about that maybe tomorrow.
Ben?
Yes.
There's another aspect you haven't mentioned.
What's that?
They are responsible for roughly 50% of all medical costs in the country.
Cigarettes.
Yeah. Smokers have up to 3 times the various serious illnesses such as lung cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, diabetes, heart attack, and disease as non-smokers. And so everybody's medical insurance, no matter who you are, is doubled or tripled because of smokers.
That presents a whole new light, Dr. Shealy, on why we need to stop smoking right now. I don't mean you and me stop. I mean everyone else who's smoking.
That's right.
Stop.
Yeah, they are costing everybody in the country. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is a gain. Immoral, unethical, unacceptable. They ought to be caned in public square until they quit. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, I really believe that they must be forced to quit.
Back in the 1970s and before, it used to be commonplace for people to smoke in the workplace.
Oh, yes.
So
on planes?
It was very common. On airplanes, on trains, on buses, in their cubicles, in their open office space, even in institutions of higher learning. Yeah. And they even had smokers' lounges. Well, they used to call it secondhand smoke. And there were people who had problems with the smoke from just, 15, 20 feet away because it entered the whole room. Let's say a person was in this large office area, and one person over there in the middle was smoking or in the corner was smoking. That smoke filled up the whole room. Of course, it was diluted with the air, but it was still there. And cigarette after cigarette would be consumed, and there would be the secondhand smoke, that which didn't attach to the walls of the building and the surfaces of the desk and the lining and the lungs and so forth. The rest of it would go in the air until it clinged onto something. Well, people put up with that for a while, and finally it got stopped. And now it's kind of nice that there's no smoking in public buildings, and there's no smoking in offices and so forth. And I like that. I really do. But please, if you know someone who smokes or you smoke, please quit for your own health and for the benefits of all those around you. And, as Dr. Shealy said, to help lower our insurance costs. That's Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, medical doctor, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, you've got a new book. Can you tell us about it, please?
Yes, it's called Conversations with G, A Physician's Encounter with Heaven. Basically, throughout my life, I have had what I call downloads, sudden knowings. Now, I usually have to do some further work to prove that the download is potentially useful. They almost always have to do with research and outcomes for gadgets and things that I produced. Well, for the last over 30 years, I actually have had what I call conversations with at least two angelic guides. In fact, the first really began where I heard them was in 1984. At midnight, I was awakened by a cacophony of something like, I don't remember, 14 or 16 voices. And they were all different. And that's where I met what I call my personal angel. We all have personal angels. They come with you when you're born, and they stay with you. And I learned that my personal angel's name was Muriel. And then not long after that, I began to have a teacher angelic guide that I call G, just G for guide. And he has given me numerous things directly and tells me that actually I've been listening and receiving information from him all my life, but I didn't know it was from him. It just, I thought it was a personal intuition. Well, apparently they work together. And so, I'm grateful, obviously, to him and to Muriel for philosophical discussions. And so I think people need to know that this is normal and potentially healthy. And so I am discussing for the first time publicly my long-standing discussions with my angelic guides.
Dr. Shealy, how can you determine whether you are being guided by G, your guide, versus being guided by the hand of God? Or is that similar? Or the same thing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Vince. To me, my personal feeling is that God itself, whatever God is, probably doesn't very often have direct communication with individuals. So I think it would be through an angelic guide. Now, let's face it, and I don't go into much detail about this in the book, although I do mention it, there is demonic and satanic and negative possession of people as well. I personally, I think it was 1995, was about to do a past life therapy session on a patient to demonstrate it to some students. And all of a sudden, instead of the patient, the student that I was using, going into a past life, I'm looking at, intuitively, I see a demon. And I thought, oh my, that's fun. I've never done this before. So I spent 30 minutes getting the demon to go to the light. I'd never seen one, but I'd read about it. And so it was my will against its will, and finally I told it, either you're going back to hell and be tortured forever because you weren't supposed to be found out, or you're going to the light. And finally it went to the light. So there's other kinds of possession than by angels than God.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Dr. Shealy, how do you discuss past life regression, that type of a procedure, therapy experience with those who are absolutely vehemently against it, who, for religious reasons?
Well, Vince, I don't argue with fundamentalists who have no fun throughout life. I mean, seriously, I consider people who are that stupid, uninformed, but really ignorant. It's ignoring fact. There was a wonderful book written by an Anglican Scottish minister, Geddes McGregor, many years ago, called Reincarnation in Christianity, until Constantine had created the New Testament in 325. Reincarnation was part of Christianity. They threw it out because the philosophy was if you believe you've got a second chance, people can't be controlled. Mm-hmm. And so to me, ignorance is ignoring fact. And fact is reincarnation is as real as incarnation.
Okay. I was reading an article about, and I've got it in front of me, about children who have chest infections. And it's, again, at dailymail.co.uk. They've got a lot of thought-provoking articles. And they've got a lot of actresses bending over in, scantily clad attire as well. But they have some articles that I think are worth reading. And this is one that provokes a lot of thought. And it says that having a chest infection as a child raises an adult's risk of asthma by up to 4x. Suffering from a lower respiratory tract infection increases the risk by 2 to 4 times. An upper respiratory tract infection raises the risk by 1.5 times. And it says that more study is necessary, but a respiratory tract infection such as bronchitis or pneumonia before the age of 5 increases the likelihood of an adult developing a lung condition at 2 to 4x. Now, it seems like it would make a lot of sense. When you get sick as a child, if you damage your lungs with... And who hasn't had bronchitis? A lot of people have had pneumonia, but bronchitis, that was... Heck, there were a lot of people with bronchitis when I was growing up in elementary school. So, Dr. Shealy, do you buy that it increases the risk of asthma as you get older?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Look, the immune system is ultimately the major, important aspect of health in every possible way. Everything that takes place in your body, probably to a greater or lesser extent, is ultimately the result of how strong your immune system is. It affects everything. And so people who are, let's say, deficient in vitamin D3, and 80% of adults are, and I don't know what percentage of children, but it's probably just as high, and 80%...
Class, Dr. Shealy's with us, and we were talking about an article I was reading on the dailymail.co.uk, which talks about having a chest infection as a child raises an adult's risk of asthma by up to 4 times. And Dr. Shealy, you were talking about, and it seems to make sense to me that the cause and effect there. You were talking about the immune system, and you were talking about vitamin D3 and a lack of vitamin D. Would you please continue with that?
Yes. Vitamin D3, of course, is probably the number one serious deficiency. Vitamin C, even, a deficiency. And there's dozens of other things that can affect the immune system. But if your immune system is not strong, you're prone to everything from frequent infections to cancer and every other illness known. And so basically, that's why it is so important to have good health habits all of your life.
Okay. And one of the things that you recommended on this broadcast was Greek yogurt. And you've mentioned it many times. And now we're talking about plain Greek yogurt. Now, the one that I like the taste of the best would be the vanilla. However, it's got sugar in it.
Sugar.
It's got sugar in it. And what is sugar? Poison. Well, so I have been buying the plain Greek yogurt. And I got to tell you, it doesn't taste great. I got to tell you that, but what I do is there's one of them in the refrigerator that's just for me. There's others for other people, but I've got my own. I go get a clean tablespoon, and many times a day, every couple of hours, I will, between meals, I will grab a heaping tablespoon, and I'll eat it right then and there, and then put the tablespoon in to be washed in the sink. So, or I will put it in the dishwasher. But what I'm saying is many times a day, 1 tablespoon. Dr. Shealy, is this a reasonable protocol to improve my immune system?
Absolutely, because it provides the healthy bacteria that your intestines need to help with everything in your body. Now, if you really, really like the vanilla, I don't know what it would taste like adding just a tiny bit of vanilla flavoring and stirring it up.
Natural vanilla.
Yeah, natural vanilla. That would be okay.
I'm going to try that.
It's worth trying because there's a lot of people like, a little flavoring. Although I like Greek yogurt, because of my schedule and traveling, my favorite actually is homemade kefir. And it's got much of the same kind of bacteria in it. And I make a gallon a week of kefir. So that's how much I consume in 1 week. I get sort of a glass full twice a day.
Can you tell us your recipe? Would you share that with us?
Well, you have to get kefir. You can buy plain kefir at the health food store. And then I mix about a cup of that into a 2-quart jar, and I add to that 2 level cups of whole milk dried whole milk powder, and fill it up and shake it up. Put a cloth over it with a rubber band to keep bugs from getting into it, and just set it at room temperature for 24 hours, and it's ready. So I do 2 of those a week, and I love it. I mean, the flavor is very smooth and mild, and it's just another way of getting it yourself. And since I don't drink a lot of regular milk, I don't buy a gallon of milk to make it. I just keep dried whole milk powder handy.
And would you call this so that enhances the bacteria growth, the positive beneficial bacteria in the kefir and milk? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, once you leave this out for a day or so, do you then refrigerate it, or do you?
Oh, yes. It needs to be refrigerated after 24 hours.
Okay. All right. And I'm trying to think if I've ever heard you coughing and sneezing, and doesn't ring a bell. So you're pretty healthy. Yeah. Dr. Shealy's another article on the dailymail.co.uk. And this one, this should ring a bell with our class. Using bleach and household cleaning products can increase your chances of fatal lung disease by 1/3. Cleaning chemicals increase the risk of COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Bathing in bleach increases the chance. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, okay. When I lived in Virginia, Dr. Shealy, there were people who would put a few drops of bleach in the bathtub with well water, and they would put their children in it because they believed that it would help remove the bacteria on their skin. They would do that. But, you're going to be breathing that because the warm water of a bath helps release the chlorine from the water. And there you are, sitting in a hot bath, breathing chlorine. And it says COPD is a group of lung conditions, including bronchitis and emphysema. And so what they're saying is, you put that stuff down the toilet bowl, these cleaners, these chemicals, you wash dishes and pots and pans with, chemicals, you clean the drains, you clean the floors, you disinfect countertops and so forth. And now you've increased your exposure to these disinfectants. Now, who's exposed a lot to these disinfectants? Well, nurses, people in the food service industry, because as I remember it, the Board of Health requires that if you have a restaurant, that you have a bucket with chlorine bleach and a rag in it at the ready, typically under the counter at all times, and you can fail a health inspection, or at least you could years ago, if you didn't have that visible for them to see when they came and made a surprise inspection of the restaurant. So what we're saying is that these cleaners can have an adverse effect on your health, and it's dangerous. So, Dr. Shealy, your comments, please.
Well, obviously, I think you have to be very careful. Now, there is a product called Nixol, which is a different compound, but just as good as a disinfectant. And even, the odor of it is almost nil, so it's not evaporating into the air as much, and that's what I tend to use when I need that kind of thing.
And that's what we do as well. Nixall. Class, we've had it at the Get Prepared Expos. We've done seminars on it. So Nixol, and it's available from, you can get it in Missouri, and just type in Nixol, Nixall, on your search engine, and you'll find some contact information.
And of course, that's because it's made in Nixa, Missouri.
Right. And from my understanding, from Milo Carter, a USA Prepares instructor, that it can kill all known pathogens. Is that right?
That is, 99.9. I mean, nothing is 100%.
Okay. All right. I was in traffic in the truck in Springfield, Missouri, with Mrs. Finelli and one of our boys, and I saw this cloud coming out the driver's window of another vehicle, waiting at the traffic light. It was a white cloud, and it was a huge cloud, and I said to the family, that is an e-cigarette, and that person is smoking an e-cigarette. And there's this belief that cigarettes are harmful, but and we believe that, but e-cigarettes are better for you than plain old light 'em up type cigarettes. And according to an article that I've been reading, it says nicotine in e-cigarettes can triple the risk of heart damage by increasing the blood pressure of the users. It's called vaping, V-A-P-I-N-G. Vaping devices were found to increase blood pressure and the heart rate of users. Arterial stiffness, 3 times greater with the use of e-cigarettes containing nicotine. And they're saying that experts say that e-cigarettes are safer than the real thing, but there still are risks.
Well,
actually, have you... Yes.
Which poison do you want? I mean, come on. Is there such a thing as safety when it comes to poison? A little bit of arsenic, cumulative, is just as bad as a large dose. Suddenly, I mean, it may take longer to kill you, but it still kills you. Mm-hmm. Poison is poison is poison.
All right. So then the next question, Dr. Shealy, is for those who are absolutely positively addicted to cigarettes. Is it medically safe, in your opinion, to just stop, or do they have to, or do those who are addicted for a long time, do they need to wean off over a period of months or weeks or days? Or what are your thoughts?
Interestingly, weaning almost never works. This stuff is so addicting that even a little bit keeps you hooked. You do need to go cold turkey, and although you may have, for a week or 2 or 3, shakes and chills and, all kinds of mental and sleep problems, the only real solution is cold turkey. Now, we do believe that if you're willing to use Earth Bliss and Air Bliss every day, it can markedly help prevent a lot of the withdrawal symptoms from nicotine. But you have to use it. And you have to be willing to quit. Again, I don't recommend weaning.
Okay. So, Glass, if you want to try Earth Bliss, it's one of Dr. Shealy's essential oils. It's available on the website, normshealy.com. When we come back, let's talk about maternity wards and turning away women who are in labor. Class, Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, and if you'd like to contact him at his clinic, 417-351-5221. 417-351-5221. And you may want to make an appointment to go see Dr. Shealy or Dr. Sergey Sorin, his medical partner. Dr. Shealy, I was reading an article about toxins in inkings, meaning tattoos, could give you cancer. I mean, it's always been a question I've had. We've talked about it on the air, and here it is. dailymail.co.uk. Why tattoos could give you cancer. Toxins in inkings stay in your bloodstream for life and accumulate in lymph nodes. Lymph nodes may become swollen and therefore less able to fight off infections. Titanium dioxide is added to ink to create colors, but also dyes or colors the lymph nodes. And the controversial chemical is linked to cancer, itching, and delayed healing. Heavy or chemicals and heavy metals may travel in the blood and be engulfed by the cells. So here we have a link or a question that says, could tattoos and the inks which stay in your body for life, could they be involved in causing cancer? And Dr. Shealy, you've talked about this before. Any thoughts?
Well, poison is poison. I mean, there are 550,000 commercial chemicals that are toxic released into our atmosphere every year. Of course, probably the number one is Roundup by Monsanto. And probably equal to that is nuclear energy. We've had more artificial, if you will, nuclear waste into the atmosphere in the last 60 years or so than in the previous 5 billion years. So humanity has been beyond stupid. They have been unbelievably dangerously ignorant in overpollution.
All right, no question. So I guess what you're saying is that, getting a tattoo is a voluntary thing. I guess under most circumstances, no one's pressuring a person at the muzzle of a gun to get a tattoo. And why not think about the consequences? And how about if you tattoo that current girlfriend's name on your chest or your arm or wherever you happen to tattoo it, and then things don't work out, and that girlfriend is replaced with another girl who has a different name? How is that new girlfriend going to feel about seeing the old girlfriend's name every time she looks at that part of your body where you've got that tattoo? So you might want to think about that. And now tattoos are great for identifying people, and they're also great for helping you not become anonymous. So my position is I don't want one. I really don't.
Well, I don't want one dot of one anywhere on my body. No, it's enough stupidity. It's beyond stupid. I mean, Problem is problem. And why court problem?
I remember when I was in school, people would write themselves notes. They would take a ballpoint pen and write it on their palm of their hand or their wrist. And I would say, does that ink stay there for a long time? And they say, no, it disappears. So where do you think it goes?
To your lymph system, you lucky person.
Yeah. that Bic pen or whatever pen they're writing with, that ink that leaves the ball of the ballpoint pen that goes onto the skin a lot of it gets absorbed. So why do that? Why risk it? Dr. Shealy, so that number, if you'd like to contact Dr. Shealy's office, 417-351-5221. 417-351-5221. That's the number for the clinic. Dr. Shealy, thank you so much for being with us here at USA Prepares.